Haunted secrets revealed. An FBI agent Sinister pursuit of the cursed mob's unexplained darkness. The night trembled in Pine Grove, a town where shadows whispered and walls bled secrets, where no one blinked without a prayer. FBI Agent Rachel Torres could feel the weight of it as she stepped off the train, her heart pounding like a war drum. The rusted steel cars groaned behind her, echoing the despair that clung to the dying streets. The air was laced with the stench of decay, and the once vibrant neighborhood now felt like a graveyard caught between moments of childhood laughter and an oppressive silence. Rachel's thoughts were consumed by the unsettling reports piling up on her kitchen table. Disappearances a dozen and counting, and none would touch her. But they did. She could see the fear etched on the faces of the residents, their eyes darting, mistrust poisoning community bonds. What if it's true? Her instincts screamed. They said the old hospital, rotting at the town's edge, had devoured the spirits of the past, blood, betrayal, and secrets buried deeper than the graves in the cemetery. Gritting her teeth, Rachel dismissed these superstitions as she walked home, determined to protect her son, Danny, from this creeping malevolence. That night, the oppressive atmosphere wrapped around her like a quilt of dread, urging her to look deeper as case files lay like soldiers ready for battle across the table. It was there, amidst the chaos, that the chilling lead surfaced, an encrypted message hinting at the hospital's secrets. You have to chase what terrifies you, she thought, but her gut twisted with alarm. After all, the locals had exchanged smiles for whispers, and her once friendly neighbors were not the simple folks she'd believed they were. One could feel their paranoia weaving tighter. Cursed mothers murmured reassurances to trembling children under the dim porch lights, recounting tales of spirits who snatched away the reckless and the late. Warnings rang clear: stay inside, the darkness hungers. As every night enveloped Pine Grove, Rachel sensed the very ground beneath her feet trembled in tandem with the pulsing darkness surrounding her. Braving the old hospital alone, flashlight flickering, she peeled away layers of trepidation. Each step echoed in her chest as she ventured deeper. The air thickened, the walls closing in, and suddenly, she stumbled upon what felt like a graveyard of twisted rituals, long forgotten evidence pointing to Mr. Henderson, the smiling neighbor she'd shared coffee with only weeks before. Shadows cloaked him now, twisting reality into grotesque visions. Fumbling back, she felt eyes watching her, the faint cries of the missing coiling into her ears. Her heart raced, terror gripped her throat. Who was she truly trusting? I'm just chasing shadows, she thought, panic clawing forth. The hospital's dark past seeped into her very soul, she felt it pulling her under. But just when she thought escape was possible, the ground beneath her shifted violently, shaking her sanity. The air sang with cackles of the past, laughter warped into screams. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Rachel stumbled back toward the door, breathless and suffocating under the weight of the town's secrets pressing against her chest like an iron vice. Had she been foolish to uncover the truth? White-knuckled, she raced away from the malevolence that haunted the corners of her mind. She couldn't afford to fail now. Danny needed her. As her home loomed into view, a profound realization crashed upon her like a storm. Could the real threat lie within her own community, the very people she had sought to protect? Just then, Danny's terrified face appeared at the window, but the whispering wind carried an unsettling promise: the night wasn't done. The darkness had only just begun to unleash its vengeance. The moment Rachel stepped inside, the twisted thoughts of the hospital fused with a primal fear that sank deep in her gut. The modest walls of her home felt like a fragile barrier against the night's impending doom. Danny's fearful eyes pierced through her as he stumbled back from the window, a trembling boy caught in a world of shadows. The room was dim, illuminated only by the flickering lamp that seemed to echo the urgency in her heart. Mom, did you see them? Danny whispered, his voice a fragile reed breaking in a storm. His small hands were clenched tightly against the fabric of his pajama shirt, knuckles white. See who? Rachel struggled to keep her voice steady as she knelt down, looking directly into her son's wide, terrified eyes. The innocence in them was being chipped away by a town that thrived on fear. She needed to shield him from this nightmare. But how could she? The weight of responsibility felt suffocating. Out there they're watching, Danny stammered, pointing toward the window. Sweat glistened on his brow. I could feel them. It's their eyes. They're everywhere. Rachel's heart sank. A crawling dread coiled within her, squeezing painfully. She rushed over to the window, peering through the drapes, half expecting to see phantoms lurking on the porch or figures slinking into the shadows. But nothing was there, just the oppressive silence that seemed to vibrate with the unspoken horrors of Pine Grove. Suddenly, a loud thump reverberated outside, startling her. She felt an adrenaline rush, a chilling mixture of fear and determination. Stay here, Danny, she commanded, her voice filling the room, although her hands trembled as she clenched the curtain. With her flashlight gripped tightly, she opened the door, stepping outside. The air was slick with a palpable tension, and darkness enveloped her like a shroud. Shadows danced across the lawn, the trees groaning as if trying to warn her of what lurked nearby. Mom! Danny's small voice echoed from behind, panic rising like steam. I'm right here. She shouted, forcing herself to sound brave. She scanned the surroundings, searching for the source of the noise. She felt like an intruder in her own life, each second stretching into an eternity. Then she saw it, a glimmering object on the ground, barely visible amongst the twigs and the weeds. Curiosity mingled with dread as she approached and knelt down. It was a small pendant, ornate and blood red, the intricate engraving swirling like tendrils of smoke. Something about it felt wrong. It felt alive, vibrating with energy. Rachel's instinct screamed at her to leave it alone, yet she couldn't resist. She picked it up, feeling a jolt of cold run through her fingers. In that instant, a chilling wind gusted, and the world around her warped. Faces, the missing ones, flickered at the corner of her vision, their silent screams filling her ears. Shadows merged and twisted longer and darker, blotting out the light until all she could see was a swirling abyss of despair. Mom! Mom! Danny's cries pulled her back from the edge, grounding her in the horrors of reality. Danny! She yelled, turning just in time to see him standing at the door, wide-eyed and quivering. The pendant slipped from her fingers, clattering against the pavement, and in that moment, a low, echoing laughter filled the air, a deep, sinister sound that chilled her blood. Run! Rachel screamed, urgency coursing through her, pulling at her heart. She dashed toward Danny, her innate maternal instincts surging. As they rushed back inside, the night flickered with whispers of the past, a testament of betrayal and loss. Holding Danny close, Rachel glanced back, and for just a moment, she saw them, the silhouettes of the town's dark legacy, watching from the shadows, waiting for the next soul to capture. But could she protect Danny from this? As the door clicked shut, she realized she was a part of it now, forever intertwined with Pine Grove's cursed fate. A soft knock sounded at the door, slowly echoing through her mind like a metronome pacing her doom. Rachel's heart raced as she froze, unable to move. The soft knock came again, more insistent this time, echoing through the dim room and vibrating deep into her bones. She could feel the pulse of the night. The air grew thicker, charged with an electricity that promised something wicked. Mom, Danny whispered, his small voice trembling, as he inched closer to her. His innocence was fading too quickly, each second almost a countdown toward an unknown terror. What do we do? He asked, looking up at her with eyes wide and pleading. She felt her throat tighten. She longed to melt into his fear, to shield him, but the weight of dread pressed down on her like a vice. Just stay behind me, Rachel managed, forcing herself to sound steady. The knocking persisted, rhythmic and deliberate, as if taunting them. She dared not look back at Danny, doing so would pull her deeper into the abyss of panic. With trembling hands, she approached the door. Each step felt like walking on glass, ready to shatter under the weight of uncertainty. She gripped the door handle, its cool metal like ice against her palm. Who's there? Rachel called out, her voice shaky but fierce. The air around them seemed to inhale, a collective breath held in suspense, silence. Then, a raspy voice called from the other side, laced with a sinister undertone. "Are you home, Rachel? I just want to talk." She felt Danny's grip tighten on her waist, his small fingers digging into her. "Go away," she yelled, the sound echoed back at her, emptiness swallowing her words. Her heart pounded as she thought of the pendant. What had she stirred with that cursed object? What eyes were now on them because of her actions? "Rachel, I'm here to help you." The voice sounded familiar, too familiar. The chill that ran down her spine reminded her of late-night conversations filled with shadows. "No one can help us," she spat. The harshness of her words surprised her, but it felt necessary to keep the darkness at bay, if only for a moment. The knocking stopped abruptly, replaced by an unsettling laughter that sent shivers through her. Danny whimpered at the sound, burying his face into her side. She turned to him, heartbreaking at the innocence she was meant to protect, which now felt like the past slipping further away. "Mom," Danny murmured, voice cracking, his fear spilling over. She placed her finger against her lips, signaling him to be quiet as she edged closer to the door again, fighting against the urge to lock it, fighting against the truth that there was something out there that wanted them. "Let me in," the voice insisted, growing more desperate, almost pleading. "You need to understand, Rachel. Pine Grove isn't just a place. It's a prison for us all." Fingers trembling, she glanced back at Danny, desperation clouding her vision. "What do you mean?" The door rattled once, twice. "The townsfolk, they're not what they seem," the voice hissed, an edge of urgency creeping in. "You're part of it now. The pendant. You invited them." A horrified realization settled in her stomach like a stone. "If we don't open the door, will they hurt us?" "No," the voice whispered, dark and smooth, like honey laced with poison. "They'll take you willingly. You'll join them forever." Danny shuddered beside her. Rachel squared her jaw. She couldn't let fear control her any longer. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, and that was a lie she hoped was true, but when the laughter erupted again, clearer and more alive, she knew fear had another plan. "Let us find out," it taunted, and with a sudden crack, the latch on the door began to shake, the door vibrated, the structure moaning under an unseen pressure. "Rachel," the voice pressed, a sweet poison. "Open the door for the ones who seek you, or go back to the shadows." And as the door shuddered violently, Rachel felt the cold creep back, filling her with raw terror. She realized they had no choice. What would happen when the door gave way? Bracing herself, she was torn, one foot in the chilling darkness, the other still grasping toward the faint glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, they could escape Pine Grove. But the laughter deepened, seeping into her mind, hinting at some forbidden truth. Just as the door creaked open a crack, she heard the chilling whisper again, "Join us," and in that instant, terror gripped her heart tighter than before. The door jerked wider, the wood groaning under pressure as if something were pushing from the outside, eager to break through. A sense of dread coiled tighter around Rachel, her pulse racing as darkness threatened to spill into their sanctuary. She felt Danny's tiny body quiver against her, and it took everything in her to remain steady. "Mom, please," he whimpered, his voice nearly inaudible. "We're not opening the door," she whispered, barely managing to hold it together. As if to mock her resolve, the voice returned, smooth and triumphant. "You misunderstand, Rachel. The door will open one way or another. You cannot escape what has already begun." The laughter swelled once more, louder and more sinister, echoing off the walls, wrapping around her like a cold fog. She pressed her back against the door, her breath hitching, trying to block out the chilling words. Suddenly, she felt a jolt. It was as if the wind itself pushed against the door from the other side. The latch rattled violently, metal screeching against wood. "Open it," the voice commanded, now laced with a frantic desperation. "Open it or we will take what you love. Don't you want to save him?" Rachel's heart dropped, dread pulsing through her veins. What did they know? What could they take? She had to think clearly. They were threatening Danny, her sweet boy who had done nothing but stand by her side. Clenching her fists, she steeled herself against whatever was waiting. "Stay behind me," she hissed at Danny, her eyes darting toward the dimness behind them, as if the shadows themselves were closing in. The pressure against the door intensified, almost suffocating, and she could feel its warmth, the breath of something alive. She fought the urge to scream, her mind racing between the thoughts of what lay outside and the terror of what might happen if she let them in. "Your dear husband has always wanted to see you again," the voice crooned, thick with a familiarity that clawed at Rachel's sanity, picking at the raw edges of her memory. "Brian." The name felt like a knife turning in her gut. "You're lying," she shouted, the accusation echoing back at her. She had to believe that he was gone. There was no other choice. If they were lying about him, what else were they capable of? "Open the door, Rachel," the voice coaxed, shifting into a melody that set her teeth on edge. "You know he's here waiting. He misses you. We can reunite you. Just join us." The door rattled again, more forcefully this time. "Danny. Hold on to me," she screamed, feeling like the ground beneath them was being ripped away. She realized the truth. The door wasn't just a barrier, it was a thin veil between two worlds. Then it happened. The door burst open, and a wave of cold air flooded the room, bringing with it an overwhelming stench of decay. Rachel stumbled back, dragging Danny with her. "What now?" she panted, staring into the swirling dark where the edges of a shadow danced like smoke. She squinted, trying to pierce through the murky depths beyond that the thick haze. Figures began to take shape, familiar faces twisted into grotesque smiles that dripped with malice. They stepped into the light, and her breath hitched at the sight. "Welcome back, Rachel," they crooned in unison, their eyes glimmering with a hunger that sent icy waves of fear crashing through her. But in the midst of the chaos, a different shadow broke away. It was slender, shrouded but somehow unmistakable. Her husband's silhouette. "No," she gasped, instinctively stepping back. "You're not him. We can help you find him," the figure whispered, the voice both sweet and horrifying. "This is only the beginning. You just have to let go." The shadows closed in around her, pulling at her, urging her to step forward. Rachel could feel Danny's small hands trembling against her, grounding her in that moment. She had to protect him. She had to find a way. "Don't believe them, Danny," she shouted defiantly. A flicker of uncertainty danced in the darkness, but the figures surged forward, drawn to her defiance. Would she be brave enough to face the nightmare, or would she succumb to the shadow? The laughter grew louder, mixing with Danny's whimpers, drowning her thoughts in chaos. The air crackled with dark promises, waiting for her answer. As the darkness shifted and the sinister whispers flooded her mind, Rachel felt her grip on reality slipping. What awaited them in the depths of Pine Grove? Would she uncover the truth or become another lost soul? With her heart thundering in her ears, she knew her next choice would determine everything. Would she fight, or would she plunge into the abyss? The shadows loomed, and the whispers beckoned. Would she dare step deeper into the darkness? The laughter receded for just a moment, replaced by a heavy silence that felt alive. Rachel glanced at Danny, his wide eyes glistening with fear. She could feel the urgency in the air like a static charge ready to explode. The shadows continued to encroach, swirling around her like a sinister dance, drawing closer with each heartbeat. "Mom," Danny whispered, his voice trembling. "What if it is him?" "No," she snapped, more forcefully than she meant to. "We can't trust them." The figures advanced, their shapes blurring in and out of focus, as if the light itself feared to touch them. "Why do you fight?" One of the familiar faces sneered, its smile contorted in a way that made Rachel's skin crawl. "You long for connection, Rachel. Just step forward." Her pulse quickened, not from fear alone but from a desperate need to protect Danny. "Step forward to what?" she growled, the anger slicing through her terror. "You want me to trust a phantom?" "Not a phantom, dear Rachel," the shadowy figure whispered, leaning closer as if it could share a secret meant just for her. "But a chance to reclaim what was lost. Life doesn't have to end in tragedy." A memory flickered in her mind, a sweet moment with Brian, their laughter echoing in happier days. But that was gone, snuffed out like a candle in a storm. You lie. She shouted, taking a defiant step back. You're feeding off our pain. As if her words pierced the thick haze, the figures recoiled slightly, their grotesque expressions faltering. But the moment passed, and they surged forward again, hungry and relentless. Danny, hold on to me. Rachel tugged him closer, positioning him behind her, shielding him from whatever nightmares awaited. Mom? He cried, his voice quavering with uncertainty. I want to let them have you. She gritted her teeth, feeling the pull of their strange allure tugging at something deep within her. She could almost sense the warmth of Brian's love calling to her, promising solace in the shadows. Suddenly, the figures halted, as if waiting for her to make a choice. Rachel struggled to breathe. There was something horrifyingly inviting about their offer, a whisper that promised an escape from the pain, a reunion that felt both sweet and deadly. Come back to us, Rachel, Brian's silhouette murmured, his voice a haunting echo. You don't have to suffer alone. We can be together, just take my hand. Pulling on every ounce of willpower, Rachel focused on Danny. You hear that? She said, voice breaking but resolute. That's not him. It's a lie. The laughter erupted again, echoing off the walls, and the figures began to merge into one shapeless mass, shadows intertwining, wailing as if in agony, writhing toward her like a living thing. Step closer, they beckoned, their voices turning more desperate, but a flicker of disdain glimmered in their darkened eyes. It's just a choice, think of what you'll have. Rachel felt her heart pound, thundering through her chest as she stared into the void where Brian's shadow lingered. What do I have left to lose? She murmured, fear mingling with curiosity. No. Danny cried, clutching her arm tightly. Please, Mom. Don't. Rachel's mind spun. Was she really about to give in? But she could feel it, the darkness was growing restless, waiting for her response, a predator sensing its prey trapped in its grasp. The shadows hissed, an ominous sound that chilled her to the bone. Choose, Rachel, choose. Danny's grip tightened, his small face pale with fear, a stark reminder of what was at stake. Pressing her palms together, Rachel summoned every ounce of courage she could muster. I choose to fight you. She yelled, her voice filled with defiance. And no sooner had she spoken than the shadows wailed, a terrible cacophony that made her ears ring. They recoiled, swirling around, the darkness pulsing like a wounded beast. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble. What did you do? A voice shouted from the depths of darkness, furious and piercing. Rachel's heart raced as she pulled Danny closer. Run. But where to run? The threshold of the door, their last safe place, was engulfed by shadows. The room shook, a resounding echo of damp wooden walls beginning to splinter. Mom! Danny cried out as something grabbed at Rachel's ankles, trying to pull her into the dark abyss that loomed just beyond. She felt a pull toward the familiar faces, and yet, a flicker of hope ignited in her chest. Hold on tight. She shouted, lifting her foot with all her might, fighting against the shadow's grip. What awaited them in the chaos? Would they escape the clutches of the darkness, or would they be swept into the void with no return? The shadows writhed desperately, and just as everything around her began to blur and short-circuit, Rachel knew, one last choice remained. Would it seal their fate or offer a flicker of salvation? The shadows recoiled, hissing as if stung by her words. Rachel felt their wrath surge around her, pressing in like a heavy fog that threatened to suffocate. They're not real, Danny. She shouted, though her voice shook. Could this really be the only path? The darkness pulsed with menace, urging her with unsettling whispers. Stay with us, we'll share the love you lost. Brian's silhouette lingered closer now, his familiar outline infected by the malevolence that surrounded them. The hope was fading, the pull grew stronger, her heart raced as she clenched her fists. Something yanked at her shoes. She glanced down to see tendrils of black mist swirling around her ankles, curling upward like skeletal fingers craving her skin. Mom! Please! Danny's voice cracked like frail ice under pressure. Just hold on. She had to reach the door, it was their only escape. But the air shifted, heavy and charged, and the figure's laughter echoed, vibrating through her bones, bouncing off the walls like errant bullets. The shadow mass began to hum, a haunting melody bathed in malice that twisted through Rachel's thoughts, leading her toward unthinkable despair. "Flee, oh flee!" A voice wailed from the shadows, breaking through the laughter, a voice that sounded eerily like her own, yet warped by agony. No salvation, only suffering. With a surge of determination, she swung her arm, pushing against the darkness. "We won, stay." The shadows screeched, recoiling from her fierce defiance. The room quaked, the walls trembling as the ground beneath them cracked like eggshells, revealing a deep chasm lined with glistening teeth-like forms that seemed eager to devour. "Danny!" She turned, fear coursing through her veins as she dragged him back, away from the swirling void. "We're getting out of here." But just as she gathered her resolve, the shadows writhed and grew bolder. They surged forward, a tide of black intent with shrieked promises. "Stay with us and live forever." "Stop!" Rachel yelled, twisting herself to shield Danny. "You're nothing but shadows. You can't have us." The loud crack of the ground echoed in tandem with her declaration, almost as if the universe itself was listening. Something deep inside Rachel ignited, a flicker of rage and raw fear. "We choose our own fate." She made a move towards the void, taking a step that felt like diving into ice-cold water, freezing yet exhilarating. "Mom!" Danny screamed, his panic snapping her back to the present. And then, with an earth-shattering roar, the figures surged forward, mouths stretched into grotesque grins, but Rachel felt the warmth of Danny's hand in hers, grounding her. "Together!" she shouted, for if they went down, it would be hand in hand, facing the darkness that craved to separate them. Just as the shadows enveloped them, she drew Danny close. The world around them distorted into turbulent swirls of anguish and longing. But they weren't lost. No. They were going to fight. Rachel would not let fear claim them. She felt a pulse through the ground beneath, as if the very essence of the shadow realm was trembling at their combined strength. "We're not alone." But in a blink, the figures dissolved into swirling smoke, drifting upward like evaporating dreams, leaving behind only terror and the faint scent of something charred. As silence fell over the room, Rachel felt the weight of the moment settle. But the air still buzzed with anticipation, a whispering echo promising lingering danger. "Mom, what do we do now?" Danny breathed, his voice still trembling. Rachel's heart raced, knowing they had escaped one fate but were not yet free. "We find the light," she whispered, looking up into the unnatural darkness above. In the flickering shadows, a door appeared, an old, wooden frame etched with symbols she didn't recognize. What lies beyond? Before she could ponder, the door creaked, swinging open with a slow, sinister groan as darkness spilled out like smoke, wrapping around their feet. "Mom?" Danny clutched her tightly. This was just the beginning. What they'd confront behind that door might shatter them or forge them anew. Rachel steeled her heart for whatever lay ahead, knowing their choice would define everything. What secrets would the door unlock? What horrors awaited them beyond that threshold? As the shadows laughed once more, a chilling thought curled in her mind. Sometimes, the darkest paths lead to the brightest truths. The air turned stale as Rachel peered through the doorway. Thick black smoke billowed out, curling around her and Danny like serpents poised to strike. "Stay close," she warned, her voice barely above a whisper. With a swift motion, she stepped forward, pulling Danny into the darkness. It felt surreal, the way the air thickened, pressing down on them, squeezing out the light. The door closed silently behind them, sealing them off from whatever terror lingered outside. As they advanced, spectral whispers flitted around them, a chorus of grief and despair. It was almost impossible to hear any one voice, but their intention seeped through like poison. "Join us, stay, never leave, shut up." Rachel barked, upset by their taunts. The echoes of Brian's voice clawed at her resolve, but she couldn't let fear take the wheel. Not when Danny was here. "We're moving forward. Nothing is going to stop us." Each step felt like an eternity. The ground shifted beneath them, morphing into an uneven landscape littered with faint tombstone-like structures. They seemed insignificant under the weight of the shadows swirling around, but Rachel felt a chill run through her. Were these remnants from other souls lost to the dark? "Mom, I'm scared," Danny's voice trembled, his body trembling against her. "I know, sweetie," she could feel her heart thudding like a war drum. "But we have each other. We just need to keep going." They pressed on, Danny's small hand warm in hers. It grounded her, a fragile lifeline that glimmered like a beacon. But the shadows swirled closer, reaching for them with a desperate hunger. "Step into the light." A voice shrieked from deep in the darkness. It was neither inviting nor friendly. "It's the only way to survive. I'm not listening." Rachel cried out, clenching Danny's hand tighter. Fear roared within her as she started to sprint forward, not knowing what awaited them. The ground beneath them rumbled, shaking violently as if alive with rage. Rachel stumbled, struggling to keep her balance, but the grip of the shadows weakened. An eerie screech filled the air, echoing their growing fear. She didn't dare look back. "Mom, what's happening?" Danny's voice rose in panic, cutting through the chaos. "I don't know." Her heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her. They seemed to be pulling away from the shadows, but the way ahead remained shrouded in ominous gloom. Just then, the ground split apart, gaping wide like a mouth eager to swallow them whole. From the crack, a glimmer of light poked through, fragile and flickering, pulsating like a heartbeat. It beckoned them forward. "Quick! To the light!" Rachel dove toward it, pulling Danny with her. The shadows chased them, shrieking in fury as they drew near. "You can't escape. You belong to us." The light brightened, and as they neared, a warmth enveloped them. Rachel squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for impact. Would it consume them too? But as they broke through the threshold, the light exploded around them, and they landed in an open field under a vast, starry sky. "Are we safe?" Danny gasped, looking around in awe. Rachel pushed herself up, heart racing. "I don't know yet." In the distance, they saw a figure standing still, cloaked in shadows, but the outline mirrored someone she knew. Brian? Her heart dropped. Was this real? Before she could take a step, the shadows surged back, thrumming with relentless energy. The atmosphere thickened with a sense of dread, and Rachel's fear curled like smoke around her limbs. But then, she saw something in the light. A message, still flickering, just beyond reach. "Run before they find you, Mom." Danny screamed, eyes wide. As the shadows writhed and lunged toward them, that flickering light wavered. Time was running out. Would they fade back into darkness, or was there an escape still waiting for them? Rachel had to make a choice: stay here where the light was weak, or confront the darkness that loomed behind them, pushing them toward an uncertain fate. Do we go back or move forward? She felt the weight lingering dangerously on the edge of her soul. And once again, the darkness laughed, echoing ominously in her mind. What awaited them next? Could they really survive this terror, or was it all a trap to bring them home? Rachel's heart pounded in her chest as she locked eyes with the shadowy figure. Was it really Brian, or just another cruel trick of the dark? The whispers intensified, mingling with the echo of her name, a siren's call from the abyss. "Rachel! Rachel! Stay back!" she shouted, shielding Danny with her body. Doubt swirled with the choking smoke. She wouldn't lose him too. The dark presence rippled outward, an impenetrable wall of dread. It felt alive, feeding off her fear. "Mom, I don't want to go back." Danny whimpered, eyes darting between the shadow and her. "I know, sweetie," she asserted, steeling herself. "But we can't just stand here." The luminous message flickered in her mind: run. Before they find you. Instinct kicked in, misconceptions tugged at her mind. Was running back a choice of survival or surrender? "Listen to me, please," the figure murmured, voice twisted as if stretched over a jagged edge. "You don't understand what's on the other side. It won't set you free." "Who are you?" Rachel demanded, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. "I'm the guide," it hissed, but there was malice in its tone. "The one who shows the path to the truth. You must accept the darkness to grasp the tether of light." Danny squeezed Rachel's hand, his eyes wide with fear. "Mom, I don't want to accept anything. I want to go home." She felt his small frame shaking, and her protective instinct surged. "Hold on to me tight, Danny." A cold breeze cut through the field, swirling remnants of the darkness as it enveloped their feet. Rachel felt more than fear, a deep sense of despair like a weight on her heart. A voice echoed behind her, twisted, taunting. "You think you can run? There's no escape. Accept your fate." As the figure stepped closer, the face became clearer but remained obscured, obscurity giving way to familiarity. An unseen depth stirred, an echo of something lost, something she thought was gone. Rachel, every instinct screamed to flee, yet the pull of recognition tugged her in. "Brian? Is it really you?" She stepped forward tentatively, Danny's grip almost painfully tight against hers. That he laughed, low and tortured, a sound that made her gut twist. "You shouldn't have come. You should have never tried to save me." "No," Rachel cried out. "I won't leave you behind." The shadows thickened, rushing like a tide, clawing at her ankles. She wouldn't lose him. Not again. "Tell me how to bring you back." "Sometimes letting go is the only way." The wind howled in response. The glow of the flickering light shone brighter, sending tendrils reaching toward both her and the shadow. It spoke again, venomous and luring. "You think you can save him? You can't save anyone while you drown in your own darkness." Panic surged through her. The shadows began to ripple and stretch toward Danny. "Mom! Help!" he screamed. The earth roared, and Rachel was plunged back into a place of turmoil, the warmth of the light flickering dangerously. "Run!" She lifted Danny and took off toward the flickering light, each stride wrought with desperation. The ground beneath her felt unstable. Would she make it, or was this chasing figment only a mirage? As they sprinted, shadows whipped past, screeching in fury. The spectral crowd grew louder, filling her thoughts with more doubts and fears. "It doesn't have to end this way," it whispered. She glanced back. Brian's figure melted into the shadows, his face now contorted with pain, and the darkness rushed to reclaim him. Rachel felt helpless. "Please, I need you. I can save you." But the cold, relentless grip of darkness surged. She darted for the swirling light, dragging her son with her, heart racing. "Let us keep running." The shadows shrieked, their voices merging into desperate cries, pulling at her resolve. Rachel pushed forward, determined to escape their clutches. When they reached the light, it enveloped them in warmth, but only for a heartbeat. They stood at the precipice of another abyss, staring back, black as a bottomless pit. Horror flickered in her heart. "What is this?" An icy laughter surrounded them, drawing them closer to the brink. Would the next leap lead them to safety or another void? "Mom, I'm scared." Danny whimpered again, his small voice breaking through the rising chaos. Rachel gathered her courage, clenching her teeth. "We have to find out together." But what now awaited them, past the dark edge? In that moment, the ground trembled, and the shadows continued to swallow the light around them. Would bravery be enough, or did they stand on the threshold of doom? "Exactly how far are you willing to go to save him?" A voice echoed, sending chills down her spine. The questions loomed larger than ever. Would they dive into darkness to seek the truth, or would that truth demand more than they were ready to give? Rachel's breath came in rapid bursts as she stood at the brink of the abyss. The icy laughter that surrounded them faded, echoing in her mind like an ominous chime. "Mom, please don't let go," Danny urged, clinging to her waist, as if her presence was the last vestige of safety in this nightmarish landscape. "Hold on to me, Danny," Rachel breathed, steeling herself against the icy grip of fear that threatened to pull her into the void. She could almost feel the darkness writhing beneath her feet, a living entity seeking to envelop them both. The flickering light behind them dimmed, casting long shadows that twisted and danced in the air. "What now?" Rachel shouted, her voice trembling but resolute. "We can't stay here." With a sudden surge of determination, she stepped closer to the edge, squinting into the darkness. "We'll find a way. We have to." But deep down, doubt gnawed at her. Was she simply walking deeper into the trap? Was this abyss the very thing Brian had warned her about? "Mom, I don't want to," Danny whimpered, eyes brimming with tears. The shadows stirred, creeping around them like hungry serpents, as if picking up on his fears. "Just shut your eyes, Danny," she urged, not knowing if they would plunge into the void or find a safe haven. "Trust me." She felt an unexpected warmth in her heart, a flicker of hope that drove her forward. If Brian was lost to the shadows, then she would face those demons head-on, even if it meant sacrificing her own peace. "Together, okay?" With one last glance at the fading light, she gripped Danny's hand tightly and took a step forward. The ground beneath them shifted violently. A deafening roar erupted, swallowing any final remnants of sound. She closed her eyes, bracing for impact, but it never came. When she opened them again, they stood in a place that twisted her stomach, a dark, cavernous space, filled with swirling shadows that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. In the distance, she could make out shapes moving, whispering in a language she couldn't comprehend. It felt like stepping into the mouth of a beast. "What is this place?" Danny shrieked, clutching her tighter. Rachel turned, trying to shield him from the encroaching shadows that danced eagerly at the edges of this twisted realm. I don't know," she stammered, her courage wavering. The whispers swirled around them, eerie and mocking. "It's as if they know us." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, sleek and elongated, its features obscured by a veil of darkness. "Welcome, Rachel. You've finally answered the call," it said, its voice smooth and dripping with malice. Who are you?" Rachel stammered, stepping back as Danny moved closer. "I am the keeper of your fears," the shadow responded, a sinister grin forming in the void. "You seek to save the lost, but tell me, how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice?" Brian tried, and look where it got him. "No!" Rachel shouted, defiance flickering to life. She took a protective step forward, putting herself between Danny and the shadow. "I want to let you take him." The entity laughed, a chilling sound that filled the cavern. "You think you can protect him? The darkness hungers for more than just souls. It demands the truth untold to free those bound to it. Are you ready to face the truths buried in your heart?" Rachel's pulse quickened. The air thickened with pressure, and she felt Danny's grip tighten. "What truth? What do you want from me?" The shadow pointed a long, bony finger at her. "You must confront what you fear, Rachel. The past that haunts you. The guilt that chains you. Only then will you know how to save the ones you love." As the looming figure vanished back into the shadows, lingering laughter echoed in her ears. Rachel felt the weight of despair pressing down on her, each breath becoming harder to take. What truths lay ahead? Danny, still trembling, tugged at her sleeve. "Mom? What do we do now?" Rachel hesitated, her mind swirling with anxiety and the burden of choices she had to make. The path before her darkened, an uninviting turn. Push deeper into the unknown or protect her son at any cost? "One way or another, we will find Brian," she whispered, though uncertainty gnawed at her heart. Whatever it takes. But as she prepared to step further into the abyss, a distant face flashed before her eyes, Brian's anguished expression, frozen in time. Would the truth only lead her deeper into despair? What awaited them in this twisted realm? Were the shadows mere reflection of their deepest hopes and fears, or was there a way to turn the tides of fate? With the darkness swirling like a storm around them, only one thing became clear: the true battle was just beginning, and it asked a steep price. The shadows tightened around Rachel and Danny like a suffocating embrace, whispering their darkness into every corner of her mind. "You're so close," the entity hissed, its slithering voice dripping with temptation. But Rachel wasn't going to give in, not now, not ever. "Danny," she said, her voice steadying against the storm, we are stronger than this darkness. Remember who we are. We have come too far to turn back now. Danny's terrified eyes reflected the shadow's influence, but the spark of hope glimmered in him as well. We can't let them win, Mom, he murmured, clenching her hand tighter. With resolve bubbling within her, Rachel took a step forward, eyes blazing with defiance. Whatever truth you think can bind us, we will face it together. The shadows recoiled momentarily, surprise fading into annoyance. You're a fool, Rachel. You think love can overcome our grip? You're still chained to your past. A chilling echo of Brian's laughter rippled through the cavern, striking at her heart with sharpened edges. Images of their life together flashed before her, joy, love, warmth, everything lost amidst the shadows. I will not let you twist his memory. She shouted into the darkness, feeling anger surge through her like molten fire. You won't take him from me again. The darkness closed in, voices howling, unravel your fear. Let go of the guilt. No. Rachel screamed, feeling the sound reverberate against the cavern walls. I refuse to let guilt define me. Brian wouldn't want this. Suddenly, she felt a shift. A tremor surged through the ground, breaking the deep silence as a sliver of light pierced the darkness. It illuminated figures caught in the corners, lost souls, trapped in the shadows, desperately reaching out. Help us, Rachel, they murmured, their sorrow like a weight that threatened to drown her. No. I won't succumb to your despair. She shouted. You are not alone. We will fight for each other. Her words hung in the air, rippling with newfound strength. Rachel locked her gaze on the warm light, pure and inviting. Danny, with me. Danny squeezed her hand again, desperation and hope mingling in an unbreakable bond. Mom, what do we do? Together, we confront our fears. Rachel declared, and with her heart racing, they began to pull away from the abyss. One step, then another, moving toward the ethereal glow. Shadows screeched, reaching in wild desperation to pull them back, but the warmth became a shield, a protective cocoon wrapping around them. The veil of darkness shimmered as they pressed forward. One by one, the lost souls began to push against the shadows that had kept them captive for too long. Their cries turned from despair into determination, emboldened by Rachel's insistence to bond and unify. Yes. Feel the strength in numbers. Rachel shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. Suddenly, a brilliant explosion of light erupted from the ground beneath them, forcing the shadows back, giving them a window of opportunity. Together, they surged toward the sanctuary's glow, the warmth mingling with their fear and sorrow, turning it into a shield against the darkness. Almost there. Danny cried, hope lifting his spirit. A wide smile broke through, filling Rachel with renewed vigor. They broke free, bursting through into the shimmering light, and with that, the shadows dissipated, retreating back into the inky blackness that in an instant, they found themselves standing in a vast field again, bathed in the gentlest moonlight. The air was cool, and for the first time in what felt like eternity, it was quiet. Rachel looked at Danny, his face was flush with joy. They were safe. Did we really escape? Danny asked, awestruck, looking around at the stars twinkling above. Yes, Rachel whispered, overwhelmed with gratitude. And this time, we won. Look back. Just ahead, a figure appeared in the moonlight. Rachel's heart skipped. Brian? She breathed, hope and fear wrestling in her chest. The silhouette stepped closer, and with each reluctant step, the recognition solidified. It's really me, Rachel, Brian said, his voice warm and gentle, breaking through her trepidation. Tears cascaded down Rachel's face, mixing relief and anguish. But why are you here? Because you fought for us, he replied, love illuminating his features. You faced the darkness together, and you chose to live. I couldn't do it without Danny, Rachel admitted, looking at their son whose eyes sparkled brightly between them, enveloped in their love. No, Brian said, a soft smile breaking through, you found the light together. And that's what matters. As they stood united, the bond of love enveloped them in a radiant glow. The night was no longer a prison but a testament of truth. Together, they walked into the warmth, leaving the shadows behind, fulfilling the promise Rachel had made. To fight, they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. Pine Grove's secrets lay ever buried, but this time, they walked toward a future where fear would no longer reign. Together, Rachel whispered a vow of a family regained. Together was the only way forward. If this story touched your heart, then this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive tales waiting for you. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm your support matters. And please, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear everything you have to say. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the magic of storytelling together.